Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Molly and I do book content here on YouTube. I'll do a mixture of Christian and non-Christian stuff, so just if you like a mixture, or if you're a Christian and you want to hear about some Christian books at times, then stick around. Before I get started, I apologise for my hair. I have done what I can, but there are small bits that don't get put into a ponytail. So I've tried to kind of slick it back a little bit, but there are still a few bits, like that there. And this at the front here that just aren't behaving. So I apologise. I've tried to look as neat as I can. Look at that. Try and do it like that, maybe. Oh, I don't know. You're just going to have to cope, guys. Sorry. Okay. So today I am going to talk to you about my January reads. I'm going to wrap up what I have read last month. Now, I kind of did a boo-boo. So those of you who watched December's wrap up will know I did clips with like each one or two books or so that I was wrapping up and reviewing and all of that. Well, I started to do that last month. And then, because I do everything on my phone, I film and, I take my pictures and everything on my phone. Obviously, sometimes I have to delete stuff because of space. Well, guess what your Molly did at the end of last month? I deleted those clips with all of the other stuff that I had done, like old YouTube videos that you will have seen, and pictures, as well as those clips. Whoops. So I'm gonna have to do it all in one video like I have done previously. I'm gonna try again this month and try them separately again, but until then you're just gonna have to make do with an old school all at once video. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to start with the first books in my pile. They're sort of in order, but also sort of not, of when I first read and finished. So what I'm going to do is start with the top of my pile, which is the first ebook that I read last month. And that ebook was The Princess Companion by Melanie Cellier. This is from the Four Kingdoms series that she writes, which is a fairy tale retelling series. And this one is the first book in that series. And this is a Princess and the Pea retelling. This is technically my second book by her of this series and connected. I did read The Princess of Wind and Wave for a readathon in July last year, and that was one of the extended Four Kingdoms series, so it's not from the original Four Kingdoms. I think it's either like Beyond the Four Kingdoms or something like that. It's just a couple of like series ones anyway. But anyway, I read that, which is, if you can't tell from the title, was a Little Mermaid retelling. So that was my first book by her, but I wanted to actually properly go through the series. It didn't affect my enjoyment of the first one. They're all technically standalones, but they are interconnected, so some books I have characters come in from previous books. So yeah, obviously that isn't the case with the first one, but the characters from the first one may turn up in other stories. So this one I gave 5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was really interesting how they did it, because I do know the original fairy tale and it's very short and very quick and simple, and it's really interesting how Melanie kind of dragged it on so then it's a proper book and not just like a little fairy tale story like with the Grimm's fairy tales or something like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly for me. I found it was a lot quicker on ebook, probably because you're not turning pages like you would do and stuff like that. It just felt like it was faster. Unfortunately, because it's a black and white ebook, you can't tell just how gorgeous the actual cover is, because I've seen it in colour. So that is a shame, but to be honest, most of the time I don't really care that much. But with covers like with this one, for example, the colours are gorgeous. I mean, I don't know if you really get that brilliance of colour on the ebook paperwhite sort of colour version as you would in the physical copy. I don't know. But what I can do is I can always put a picture up of what it looks like. But yeah, I try not to talk too much about the books in case people want to read it, but it was really good. There were some twists that I didn't see coming. It's kind of like an adventure, a bit like romance. There were funny bits, I think, if I remember. Yeah, there were definitely funny bits. And yeah, and it follows this girl called Alyssa who there is some sort of like chronic pain sort of sensitivity rep in this with her character, because she is kind of very sensitive to touch and pain. Like it's worse for her depending on for what it is, despite what it is, sort of thing, which I can relate to in a lot of ways, but more injuries than actually like being touched or pulled or something. But yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a clean romance. I do want to say though, a lot of people say call this series like a clean series, and it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but at the end in the acknowledgements, or at the beginning, I think it was in the beginning, she does mention God. Oh, it might be in the end. Anyway, in the acknowledgements, she mentions about thanking God. So I do think she is a Christian author, but there's no, certainly in this book, there's no particular Christianity sort of things. It's probably more allegory, and certainly with the second one, which I'll talk more about at the end of, well, at the start of March. I would definitely say it's more Christian allegory. It's more like godmothers, so they probably represent maybe angels, maybe, I don't know, prophets. No, maybe not prophets, but I don't know. But there's like a high king who lives in the castle of light, which, so and so it very clearly sort of, if you know, you know, sort of thing. But it's not like other Christian fiction where there really is like praying and very Christian themes. It's more, you could get, a non-Christian could read this and just get good morals out of it type of thing. So yeah, really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm currently reading the sequel at the moment. That one's a Red Riding Hood retelling. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Oh, and this, the series is all thanks to Lindsay from Books for Christian Girls. I would check out her channel. She has a lot of really good recommendations, not just fairy tale retellings, but she has recently gone on a fairy tale retelling kick, and that's where she got these. So yeah, it's all thanks to her for that. So the next book is the start of the rest of my books that I read that are all physical, and this one, unfortunately, is a DNF. Oh, hang on. Before getting to that, so I do have yearly challenges that I'm taking part in, and that other YouTubers, well, Christian booktubers are doing. So that first one that I read was The Princess Companion. I did actually use this to fulfill a prompt for Katie's from Paperbacks and Ponytails Princess Readathon, and I used this for Vicini, and that is a villain POV, because there is a chapter, well, sort of chapter. They're not like chapter titles like chapter 1 or anything like that, but technically a chapter, and it's in the villain's point of view. So I'll use this for that. I think that was the only one I used it for. Let me just double check. I think it is. Okay, so yeah, that's the only book for, so that's the only challenge I used this book for. Right, so the book that I sadly had to DNF was Robin Hood by Henry Gilbert. This is from a children's classics collection that I don't know how long I've had. I got it from my dad's, and this is from the Wordsworth 1994. Did I get that right this time? You'll all be shouting at me in the comments, won't you? Yes, it is 1994. You keep saying it is. Yes, it is. So this is based off the really famous various myths and legends of Robin Hood or Robin Locksley from Nottingham, or that sort of Yorkshire area. And firstly, it is written episodically, so each chapter you could see it as like an episode in the TV show, so that was really interesting. But I just couldn't get into it. I got up to about page 70 something or 80 something. I got up to like chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3, page 72. Yeah, that's how long the chapters are. They are very long chapters. And now, if any of you have seen any of my previous videos, you'll know that I have read at least, well, I've read 2. But I think only you'll have only seen one Francine Rivers book that I've talked about. And she has really long chapters. But they're interesting. These aren't. This wasn't. This is very descriptive, and there's lovely descriptions, and it isn't, even though there's action because it's Robin Hood, it's not very actiony. It's not like when you read, like, I don't know, the fairy tale retelling, for example, where there's like a bit of action and adventure. It's not in the same way as that. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just boring and slow, and whilst I kind of enjoyed it whilst I was reading it, I didn't enjoy it enough where I wanted to continue. And I was only reading this for about 2 or 3 days, and I already felt like I was behind in my reading for the month that I wanted to do. And it's not because I felt stressed because I wanted to complete all these books or I felt obligated to complete a certain amount of books in that month, but it was because this was just so slow that I felt like it was taking an absolute age. Like it was taking much longer than it was. So I was just like, I need to finish, just DNF this. It's not working for me. So I've had to stop. Will I read this again and try again? Probably not, knowing what I'm like. But but never say never. Because I might want to try this again because I love the Robin Hood film. In specifically the Disney cartoon one, and I used to watch the TV series as well. There was like a BBC live action TV series when I was a kid in like the early mid 2000s. So yeah, I want to say I'm soft DNFing this and possibly reading it some other time, but it's unlikely. With the amount of books that I do have and the amount of books that keep cropping up that I want to read, it's unlikely. But you never know. Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. It was very boring. Yeah. It's a shame that I've not DNF'd a book in years, because most books I enjoy enough. I've been very fortunate enough to enjoy them enough that I was able to at least finish them, even if I gave them like 3 stars. So yeah, it's a shame. And I did use this to fulfill the prompt in Alma from Alma's Book Journeys yearly challenge, and I used that for her Decades January prompt, which was 1910s, because Henry Gilbert's version anyway of Robin Hood, this one, was written in 1912, I think, or at least, anyway. the preface letter he wrote was in 1912. So I'm assuming the book was written maybe 1910 to 1911 sort of thing by Henry Gilbert, so it counts. So yeah. So that's that one. The next book I read and was able to complete, because I've only had one DNF in January, so the rest I have completed. And that was Anne of Green Gables. This is a reread. I haven't read this version of this cover, but I have read this. So this is from the same collection as the Robin Hood one, the Wordsworth Classics. And I really like the picture, but I'm always a bit put out by this picture, because, you know, this is on an Anne of Green Gables. The picture isn't actually about Anne, if you know what I mean. It's like a completely different picture. But all of the pictures, when I've looked at all of the books, they're all to do with that book. So, like, you know, Robin Hood is a medieval picture, and it literally looks like Robin Hood and Maid Marian, because that guy there looks like the classic Robin Hood figure, you know, a guy in green. So when I look at this, I don't see a little ginger girl called Anne. When you look at that hair, to me, I don't know what you guys think, but that looks like more like a dirty blonde, like a dark blonde colouring of hair, not like a ginger hair. Like when it's described, her hair is described like it's bright ginger red, like there's no lighting that would make you think it's a different colour short of red. So that kind of just throws me, but I enjoyed the book. I gave this one a 5-star. I didn't tab or underline anything. I'm always tempted to, but I didn't. Maybe one of these days I will. One day, eventually. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting though, because Anne of Green Gables, and all of you who've read it will know, this is also very descriptive. You know, there's lots of, you know, description about the nature, and, you know, Anne talking and going off on one sort of thing. But for some reason, that doesn't bore me in these books. And I don't know why, because you would think if it bored, especially if I hadn't read it before, if it bored me in Robin Hood, this would bore me too. But I don't know why, it just doesn't with Anne of Green Gables, and I don't know if it's because I know the plot of Anne of Green Gables isn't like a Robin Hood type of book. It's not adventurous in that sort of way. It's more like a slice of life sort of book, where it's going through a period of time in someone's life. So I think that might be why I'm okay with that with these sorts of books, but like I expect it's not going to be fast paced. But there we go. I enjoyed this anyway. Lots of lovely imagery, and I just love Anne. She's just brilliant. And Marilla I love, and Matthew. Oh, I love Matthew. I love Matthew. He's amazing. And then, you know, it's just a lovely story. I really recommend the series, and I've not even finished the series, but I recommend it. So this I used, again, only for one challenge prompt, and I used that one for the Year of Maud yearly challenge that Chantel from Chantel reads all day. And she, as the name suggests of the challenge, she's going through a certain amount of books written by Ellen Montgomery throughout this year, because she just had, was it her 150th or 250th birthday, because obviously she's not alive, so she's kind of done it in, you know, in connection to that kind of, you know. So yeah, so January was to read the first Anne of Green Gables, and that's what I did. So yeah, that's that. Love it, recommend it, always, forever, all of the words. The next book that I read was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. She goes by both names. This is a children's, you would probably say middle grade in America and Canada, horror. Now, just as the title suggests, this is supernatural ghosts horror. Most of the, it's kind of like ghost hunting sort of thing, but she doesn't actually ghost hunt until probably about maybe from the second, third onwards sort of thing of the book. So yeah, she does kind of fight a bad ghosts, we would probably call them demons, but it's more ghosts in this particular book. So yeah, if you're not into your supernatural ghost sort of things in horror, or just in general, I wouldn't recommend this, even for yourself if you're an adult, or for your kids if you're not comfortable with your kids reading it, because it is a secular, non-Christian book. So yeah, there's no, because it's middle grade, there's no actual swearing. I think there was a couple of instances of using God's name in vain, but it's not the biggest book in the world, and I think it was only twice, and they were quite reasonably far apart, so I was okay, I could cope with that, and that was the only one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed it though. I read this in 2 days. I read this probably the fastest I've ever read a book that isn't like a short book, like a novella. So yeah, this was really good. It was gripping, it was fast paced. I gave it 5 stars, I think, 4 or 5 stars. Can't remember. I'll pull it up. I'll have a look before I'm editing this, and I'll put the actual stars. But it wasn't lower than a 4-star anyway. And yeah, it was really good. This is the first book in the series. I think it's certainly a trilogy. I just don't know if it's more than just 3 books or not. So, but anyway, I really enjoyed it anyway. It was interesting. It was funny. She's an American girl, American parents, and they get both of them are interested in ghosts in different reasons, her parents. So her mum is very sort of, I believe in ghosts sort of person, and then her dad is very practical, but he likes the historical sort of factual stuff about the history of the places and why people might think ghosts are real sort of thing. Unusual balance, but it seems to work anyway with the very little you hear about it. And neither of them can see ghosts, but the girl can, because yeah, it doesn't say on the back, so I won't tell you why, but the little girl can see the dead, and she has a ghost best friend. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. Her parents basically get a job to do a TV show of not ghost hunting, but kind of just going to certain famous cities around the world that are famous for ghost and spirits activity, paranormal activity. So yeah, this first one is set in Edinburgh, here in England. Well, Britain, because Scotland isn't England. Anyway, in the UK. So yeah, you get a lot of her having a bit of a sort of go at the differences in our languages, despite the fact that we're both English speaking languages, like chips and crisps, the differences between what we call chips and you in America and Canada probably as well call chips, stuff like that. So that was quite funny as well. So yeah, it was good. It was funny, it was emotional, it was gripping, scary at times, not massively scary for, me as an adult and stuff like that. But obviously if you're more sensitive or it's a young child, just be aware, content warning sort of thing. If you're a parent, you might want to read this first maybe, or just not bother recommending it to your child, whichever, you feel led to do sort of thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it though. It kind of helps that it's fast read because with such large print and stuff like that. But yeah, so that book, let's have a look. So I used that book I used it for Katie's Princess Brideathon, and I used it for Princess Buttercup, red on the cover, because obviously as you guys saw, red on the cover. I also used it for Alma's Journey Through the Bible reading challenge for the centuries, because January was the 21st century, our modern day, and there's no particular year it's set, but it's definitely set in the modern day, because like there's references to, you know, camera phones and stuff like that, so I'm assuming this is 21st century sort of thing. And I think that's it. Let me just check. Yeah, so it's just those two. And yeah, I gave this 5 star. I'll definitely probably continue with the series as well. Okay, so the last fictional book that I read was The Cairo Curse by Pepper Basham. This is the sequel in the Freddie and Grace mystery series, and this is Christian fiction. And as you can tell by the title and the picture, this is set 3 months after Freddie and Grace get married and they are going on their honeymoon. However, her husband hears from his cousins, I think, who are currently in Egypt doing an archaeological dig. And because he knows his wife is very adventurous and loves things like Egypt and that sort of well, I mean, this is mystery, but that sort of mysterious that ancient worlds can often give you, especially ancient Egypt. And he knows his wife would love that. So as a precursor to their honeymoon, they both go to Egypt. So before I continue, I actually buddy read this with Teresa from Creatively Faithful. And yeah, that's why I tapped it. And I thought I did quite well with the colours of the tabs and the colours on the cover, I thought. However, these green ones here, they were more of a mistake, because when they're all packed together, it looked a lot darker, and it didn't look dark green at all. So that kind of doesn't really go with the covers, but that's fine. I don't care that much. And I didn't use that many throughout the book in total, so it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter anyway. And I kept the tabs pretty much the same. I did add a couple to the tabs. So for one of them, I did romance and cute moments. And the other one, I did description and funny. The other one, I did interesting / relatable, and then faith again. I would say there's a lot less romance in this. So if you weren't as big on the romance between Freddie and Grace in the first book, you might prefer this one. This is a lot more action-packed and more on the adventure and mystery bit of the story instead of the relationship between the two of them. And also, if you love Egypt and Egyptology, I recommend this book, okay? So good. Most of these tabs are literally just me going, ooh, that description's good. Ooh, that's really interesting. So, yeah, that's what most of the tabs were. There were definitely some funny moments as well. Definitely some cute romantic moments as well, but not as many. And again, the faith content was about the same as the first one, so it's not massively faith orientated. There are bits of it, you know, references to, you know, God leading them together or something, or praying, or, you know, being thankful, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, love it. 5 stars is what I gave it, and I cannot wait to read the third one, sorry. Yeah, I don't know when I'll read the third one because I don't have it yet. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. Love it. So yeah, thank you, Teresa, for buddy reading this with me. I really enjoyed it. Oh, sorry. You need to know about the challenges. So for this one, again, I didn't do that many challenges for this one. So I used this to fulfill a prompt in Katie's Paperback Ponytails Princess Readathon again, and I used this for Anybody Want a Peanut and that is a buddy read. And obviously, as I said, I read this with Teresa. And then I also used this for Oceana's Read Christian Romance Challenge, and I used this for the prompt Wanted to Read. And now I have to say this could fulfill several of her prompts, but I thought I have quite a few that fit multiple prompts, so I wanted to use this for a different one, so I could use the others for the other prompts that this one could also fulfill, because this could also be, depending on, you know, whether you've read much Pepper Bassham, you could use this for a new author, but you could use this for a new series if you haven't, well, no, you couldn't really, but you could use it for past fave if you've read it before. You could use it for Wanted to Read like I did in a series because it's a sequel. You could also use it for historical as well because this is set in the 1910s, which I didn't know about the first one. So this is actually set in February 1914 is when this starts, the sequel, which means that the first one, because it was set in Christmas, it was set in 1913. Because I remember when I was talking about the first one last month in January about December. That's going to get confusing. I wasn't sure when it was set, but I knew it'd be in the 1910s, but I wasn't sure. So yeah, I just used it for those. So, the last book I'm going to talk about is the Bible. There it is. So I used this to fulfill a few prompts for my yearly challenges, but I was also taking part in a January monthly readathon for the Bible specifically. But I'll talk a bit more about that after I talk about the yearly challenges, because those are very brief. So, firstly, I read this for the Cozy Reading Challenge by Teresa from Creatively Faithful, who I buddy read with, and I used it for her first prompt, although it doesn't matter what order you go in, which was light as a component, because obviously it is very well known, if you know the Bible anyway, that, you know, Jesus was and is the light of the world. So that just made sense. And then I also used it for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge for January, which was beauty, and I used the Bible for that because obviously it's a beautiful book, not necessarily to look at. I mean, not, although you can get beautiful covers, but just the inside is beautiful. We all know, because the multiple different stories and accounts are, you know, beautiful. That is the yearly challenge, which is that I read and that, well, not completed because they're monthly, but yeah, those are the ones that I did. Now, for the monthly readathon that I did for the Bible was the Give Me Jesus challenge, which was hosted and created by Whitney from Whitney's... Have I forgotten her name again? Hang on. I should have it here because I did write it down actually. Oh dear, what are we going to do with me, eh? Terrible. Alright. No, I didn't write her name because I think it's from Whitney's reading journey. I can't remember her name again off the top of my head, of course. I apologise, Whitney. My brain just apparently does not work. So I didn't complete all of the prompts, but I did get one bingo and nearly got a second bingo. So I will talk to you about what the prompts were that I have fulfilled and what the books I used, if I can remember them. I should be able to. So I started with a short book, and I picked up Song of Solomon, I think. I should have checked. I don't know why I didn't, but there we go. Okay. I also read one of the Gospels. I read Matthew. I read one Psalm for the Psalm prompt, and that was Psalm 1. I read a New Testament book, and that was 1 Corinthians. And I also used that for an epistle. And that was it. I also listened to a book on YouTube. Listened to One King's the full book, and that was one that was read by David Suchet. If you recognise his name, or you don't, you might know him more as Detective Poirot from the Agatha Christie films and TV shows, maybe. So, yeah, I listened to One Kings by David Suchet on YouTube. And then I also read Genesis as well. And I also did a buddy read, which I'm sure I did. Oh, no, sorry. I also completed Friend Choosers, and that is because me and Teresa from Creatively Faithful also buddy read / buddy studied both Genesis and Matthew in the Bible. So she was the one who picked them, and I'm happy with doing those, and I was happy doing those. So those are what we did. Because we talked about it, I was like, I don't mind what we read, really. I mentioned Genesis specifically because that was part of this readathon, but I didn't really mind other than that. And it didn't have to be that either. But yeah, so we did that as well. I also read one that had a movie, so that the movie I used in connection to Genesis. Oh no, sorry, the movie, it didn't have to be to do with a book you had already read. Sorry, losing my marbles here. So the movie I watched was Prince of Egypt by DreamWorks, the animation, and that is a story about Moses, and it's basically everything leading up to the Exodus, and it basically just leads up to when he starts walking down to the Israelites with the Ten Commandments. yeah, that awkward moment. We don't see that awkward moment now. Yeah. Which was interesting watching the film. I've not watched it in donkeys. I did used to like that, and the Joseph one as well. I think when I was looking it up, I think it's Joseph King of Dreams, isn't it? I haven't watched that, so I haven't seen it from my now biblical perspective. But it's interesting seeing the differences in the Prince of Egypt Moses film and the Bible. There's definitely some things left. I mean, some things were quite, a bit nasty. Something you don't want to put in a film for kids because it's a kids film. So yeah, and there were some bits where I was like, I don't know if that's quite accurate, but it's not always easy to know either, to be honest, But I enjoyed it. It was really good. The soundtrack was really good. I have, a song on it on my playlist now. I think that was it. Oh, yeah, there was Buddy Read, sorry. So, yeah, there was a Buddy Read one as well for the prompt, which obviously, as I said, is me and Teresa. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Whitney, for that, because I Bible study regularly. Most days apart from, 3 times a week I don't, because they're busy / I'm already at church on the Sunday, so I take that as well. It's not my rest day from Bible studying, but I don't do any extra Bible study at home. So yeah, it was nice to actually do some other reading as well. Definitely tempted to keep going with the challenge, but unofficially, but I'm not sure yet about that one. But yeah, there was definitely prompts I could have fulfilled with Genesis, like there's a prompt for long book, and obviously, Genesis would definitely fulfill that prompt. But I didn't use that in the end. But yeah, that was it really. So that was my Bible reading that I was doing. So there we go. And that was the last book I read. Well, books, should I say, plural. So yeah, that's it for what I read in January. I read a decent amount. that is it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talking about what I read and all of that jazz. How did your January reading go? Did you take part in any of these challenges or readathons? Whether you did or didn't, what books did you read? What was your worst book for January? I would love to know, because mine was definitely Robin Hood, because I DNF'd that. The rest were all like 5 stars, so, and not including the Bible, of course, but yeah, that one I don't give a rating to, because it's one of those things you can't really. So yeah. Yeah, let me know, what was your worst book? And if you want to tell me your best book, let me know as well. I'd be interested to know that. So yes, I want to apologise again for the state of my hair. There's literally nothing I can do about it. They just won't stay down. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So yes, I will see you all next week. I pray God blesses you in your reading and your life, and yes, I will see you next time. Bye.